Will you let yourself get carried away by your emotions, or will you be able to stay still as a mountain? This is going to be the theme for the rest of June, especially as we lead into the new moon in Cancer that is happening on Wednesday, June 25th. Energy of the week on my channel. My name is Brenna. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. I'm a human design reader of 9.5 years, an astrologer teaching you how to break down human design and the transits into more palatable steps, and teaching you the astrology of human design at the same time. So this week we are going through a gate transit between Gate 52, which is known as the Gate of Stillness, and it is the archetype of the mountain. I've talked about this a little bit over on my Energy of the Day, the Human Design Way shorts and TikToks and Reels, if you guys follow me on any of those other portals. And we're really focusing on how to remain stable and sound and grounded in the midst of chaotic times. Now, if there was ever a time or a moment in history, especially if you're a millennial like me, that has really been building up to this, we are at that peak kind of moment because we are entering into a new industrial age. We're really noticing that there's a lot of things happening in our atmosphere, and our emotions are really starting to bubble up, right? There's a lot of emotions happening amidst the surface. But when you see people who are incredibly calm in the midst of chaotic or emotional times, think about how empowering that is and how you can use this energy of Gate 52 to allow yourself to rise to the top, rise to the occasion, and really prove to yourself that you are deserving of peace and protection in the midst of a rapidly changing world. Now, the key here, and something that I mentioned in my workbook for the new moon in Cancer and my new moon in Cancer video, it's in the show notes over there, is really paying attention to getting emotional clarity first. What is it that you want? What's going to make you feel satisfied? And then how can you use the power of Gate 52 to fight for it, to stand by it, to be really obstinate and opinionated? We know Cancers, once they are like have their mindset on something, this is Cancerian energy, they are really feeling that firm ground, that stubbornness, that crowd that is not willing to move. Now, what's really nice about people with this placement or having this placement in your human design body graph or during this transit is that you are somebody who really knows how to tell us when there's a time to take action and a time to relax, because this gate sits in the root center or the root chakra, which is a pressure center that tells us when we're supposed to act, when we're supposed to ground, when we're kind of in this active, expectant waiting period, kind of like yoga pose type energy. Even when we're still, we are still being, we're firm and grounded, rooted in wherever we're at the moment, because we're radically honest about what's happening in our environment, not allowing ourselves to be swayed by it at all. Specifically, this transit is happening between 3 and 9 degrees of Cancer. So if you have a 3 to 9 degree Cancer placement in your natal chart, you're also going to feel this energy too. For each days of the transit, we progress about 1 to 2 degrees moving forward. There's a 6-day weekend human design for each of the gate transits, so you can see how the math is mathing here. The first day of this transit was going to be Wednesday, June 25th. We have the new moon in Cancer. And why we have a new moon in Cancer, when we have a new moon, it's always going to be in the same gate as our sun. This day, we are in the energy of the line 1, or the think before you speak type energy. We're in its exalted placement. We're somebody who knows that silence is a power move. And when we are silent, we are observing. 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We're listening twice as much as we're talking and being very observational. Now, when it's detrimented placement, it's basically putting your foot in your mouth and where you keep yapping and are a certified yapper, but not in a way that's doing you any favors. This is that putting your foot in your mouth kind of energy where it's very hard for you to kind of stop once the word vomit kind of comes out. In the second day of this transit, or on Thursday, we are in the hermit line, or the line of concern. And in its exalted placement, or where we're trying to lean towards, really allowing ourselves to pause and make room for other people. It's like where sometimes people, my neurodivergent people, have to like sit on their hands so that they don't like over talk, or they're trying to remind themselves that they want to be in a dialogue, not a monologue. This is that kind of energy that's happening in its exalted placement. Now, in its detrimented placement, this is where we see that typical Cancerian passive aggressive type energy. So just be aware of that in your energy if you have this placement, or if you're just aware of it in the atmosphere, that this can sometimes happen. You can decide, is this something that's actually beneficial for your energy, or is it something that you want to shy away from because you want to be seen and act in a different way or light? On the third line, or on the third day of this transit, we are experiencing the line of tranquility, which is the martyr line in human design. The third line is always going to be known as the martyr line, which is basically just a fancy way to say trial and error process. In its exalted state, this is where we see the ability for restraint, for self-control, to allow us to kind of strategize and to take stock of why we have barriers and roadblocks in our path in the first place, and to not let ourselves get swayed, remembering this is embodying the mountain archetype from whatever we're supposed to be focusing on. Even if that is a roadblock, there's a pivot there that's just helping us take a detour to get to where we want to go, but in a much more aligned way and path. Now, in its detrimented placement for this day, or this time of this transit, which is going to be around 6 degrees, 5 to 6 degrees of Cancer, we are really noticing how there's this energy of like not taking no for an answer, really trying to bulldoze past when things don't go your way, or just really making a mountain out of a molehill where you're not understanding the error side of the trial and error process properly and aren't allowing yourself to pivot and see a more aligned way for you to go. This is just watching out for our stubbornness here. So in the fourth line, it's actually very similar to day 3. This is the line of discipline or the opportunist, where your opportunist lines are anyone who has a 4 in their profile or 4 in their human design body graph is somebody that is able to seize the opportunity and to just really lean into, also teaching our third lines, leading by example, really teaching us how to lean into the circumstances that are at play. And this day, this transit, if you have this in your chart, you're noticing that when we do have moments of stillness, this is a time that we can really practice being grounded. Bedrock has been a big phrase that has come up. We're not just building a foundation, but we're building bedrock for how we are really going to grow so much so during this time, right? If we rewind back to the first day of this transit, it's thinking before we speak and really understanding what we want to be known for, not only for the rest of the year, but for the rest of our life, for the rest of our career, for the next 20 years, right? Whatever it looks like from a longer term vision, it's going to be really important with the seeds that you're planting for the new moon in Cancer. I go deeper about that in my new moon in Cancer video. I'll link that in the show notes below, but really paying attention to just being very observational and seizing the opportunity on this day to be disciplined when it comes to moments of peace and quiet, and allowing ourselves to not be super impulsive today. Now, as you may have guessed it, the detrimental or the opposite of this energy is to bulldoze past restraint, to bulldoze past quiet, peace, turbulence, all that kind of thing, or creating turbulence because we're bulldozing past that necessary restraint that's letting us really grow and bloom where we're planted, again, creating that solid bedrock for how we can move forward. Now, even for all of these placements, you want to notice that even if you have them, they are something that you're going to feel very personally during this time, but you're also going to be hypersensitive to it in your atmosphere. So just being aware that as you go through each of these days, we're really noticing how other people are affected by this energy, how other people are very easily dysregulated right now. I know that I've been in more of my hermit era during this time. I listen to Lee Harris, who I also really enjoy, that's here on YouTube. And he always says that during this time, there's going to be people who are hermiting more inside their home, more really blooming where they're planted, or people who are going to kind of be out on the front line. Definitely going to be more in my hermit mode and really can bloom where I'm planted and create my ripple effect by being home and creating stability around that space, right? Really protecting what you consider sacred to you and really creating good energetic boundaries and hygiene around those things, those people, places, and things is going to be really important during this time. Now, the 5th day of this transit, or if you have gate 52 in the 5th line, this is the line of explanation. And this is where we get really direct and succinct with our communication. We don't have time for fluff. It's like we've built the energy of getting all the data, gathering all the resources throughout the week, doing the things we have to do behind closed doors. And then when it's showtime, it's like the army leader who's just commanding. This is the line of the heretic or the messenger, after all, always with 5 lines. That's just saying, okay, it's go time. Not explaining the whole strategy. That's what we've been planning for in our respective areas of, say, the camp, so to speak. Now we're ready to go ahead and move forward in a much more productive fashion. It's go time. This isn't the time to really exchange pleasantries, although we're kind. It's just being direct and forceful and going about our day. Now, in the detrimented aspect of this placement, these are people who have sat on their energy for too long, that they basically have analysis paralysis and have created this like kind of shock, almost like shocked syndrome, where they're kind of like maybe feeling a little bit lazy or doubting themselves a little bit more. People with this placement can be a little bit more prone to that, where they've like talked about the thing for so long, but they haven't actually done any actions to follow through, that they create a little bit of agitation and just kind of like malaise, disinterest in their energy. So watching out for that on this day of this transit. Maybe if you just need a rest, it's okay to take a rest, but understand when you keep talking about something and keep putting it on your to-do list for the next day, to the next day, to the next day, is it actually something that aligns with how exciting it may or should be for you at this time? Maybe your views, your values, your vision has changed and is supposed to go in a different direction. Now, on the last day of this transit, we're experiencing true peacefulness because it is known as the line of peacefulness in gate 52 in the 6th line, or the 6th day of this transit, where we're really leaning into allowing ourselves, especially in the exalted placement, to lean into feeling relaxed, calm, cool, and collected, and knowing that even in times of peace, there may be still things that we have to get done on our to-do list, but we are allowed to enjoy the moment and how far we've come, how hard we've worked through this week up until this point. In its detrimented aspect, this is where we become a little bit too delusional, a little bit too grandiose, a little bit too washing over of the energies at this time, and really letting ourselves go pendulum swinging in the full direction of really leaning into, I don't have to do anything, I have no responsibilities, a little bit to go with the flow in not so great of a way. It's not bad to be go with the flow, but when we are allowing ourselves to be pacified by just being like, oh, I'll figure it out, passive prayer, I always say, this is where we can get ourselves into trouble. It's like knowing that when there's a time to rest, there's a time to work, and that's what makes the rest so much sweeter. That's the exalted use of this placement, versus the detrimented aspect of that placement is like everyone thinking that they can just kind of not get away with not doing anything. We are human beings that are meant here to do something, right? With our energy, we didn't come here to just lay around and have no purpose, but sometimes the purpose can be laying around, eating berries, enjoying the fruits of our labor, and paying attention to that. But enjoying the fruits of the labor obviously means that there's labor involved. You just want to find the labor that's most aligned for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm so excited to have gone through all of the weekly transits with you, or at least the sun transit and our new moon in Cancer. If you are interested in joining our new moon in Cancer manifestation circle over in Patreon, that's happening Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, $22 a month for Patreon. I also have that $5 new moon in Cancer workbook that's linked in the show notes below if you guys are interested in joining our very robust community, or if you feel a little bit of more of the hermiting energy, that's where the workbook can also come in handy. So thank you guys so much for being here. I will see you next week for the next gate transit and our further progression of Cancer season from 10 to about 15 degrees as we move forward through the signs of the zodiac and each of the seasons and the weekly gate transits and how it applies to your human design body graph if you have these placements in general. So I will see you guys next week. Enjoy it and enjoy the new moon in Cancer. It is going to be an abundant one.